sit on the fence and look at the sky. You've listened to lies, your life's passing by. You cry all day long, they've treated me wrong, and long for the night to give up the fight. Tell me why, tell me why, nobody will help you to build up your life, so don't wait too long, your time will be gone. So gather some courage to build your own life. Start using your wings and pull your own strings. You can fly, you will fly high, fly over the mountains that prevented you from going high. Make your own choice and listen to your own voice. You can wait for a change or good times to come, but you can be sure your life will be done. So get up and walk and grope in the dark. At least you can say, I went my own way. I'm alive, I'm alive, alive. Fly over the mountains that prevented you from going high. Make your own choice and listen to your own voice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Lovely to see you all. So welcome to those of you who are joining for the first time to these open webinars that at the moment, I'm doing them once a month. Who knows, that might change. And each month it's on a different theme. And it's by donation. So thank you to those of you who have made a donation. It all helps support the continuation of this work. This webinar, this session today is on the theme of, is practice necessary? Which I feel is a big question. So we will look at it, a bit of it in, let's say, from some angles today in the time that we have. But before we get into that, I'd like to start by we're having a guided meditation. So if you just get comfortable and close your eyes, you can take some deeper breaths just to settle. And you can just take some moments to scan this body, just noticing how you feel right now. Noticing any sensations, emotions, or even thoughts. Everything's welcome to be here. But nothing means anything more than anything else. So if thought has something to say, its story doesn't have any more meaning than, let's say, the sensation in your big toe. So everything is of equal value and meaning and importance. It's all just acknowledged to be here. Just the way it is, whatever is here. It's absolutely accepted and welcome just the way it is. No matter what is here, you are aware of it. No matter how comfortable or uncomfortable the sensation might be, you as awareness, you are simply aware of it. Nothing more, nothing less. You are aware of thoughts. You are aware of everything without exception. And this awareness, it is the background to everything that is happening. It is that welcomes and accepts whatever is here without exception or condition. There are ups and downs in life. You are simply aware. Unmoved, untouched by whatever is happening. And this is who you are. This is your true nature. Stillness beyond it all. So let's take a few deeper breaths again. And feeling this body. Feeling the feet on the ground, the bum on the seat. And when you're ready, we can open our eyes. So, our theme today is practice necessary. Well, it's one of those paradox kind of questions, really, or answers, because on one hand, we can say, well, our true nature is already all that we are trying to become. Our true nature is always aware. It is always whole. It is always absolute love, peace, stillness. It is already fully enlightened or awakened. It is absolute freedom already. So no amount of practice will ever help you become that, because it is already who you are. Although knowing that intellectually is just an intellectual concept, right? And doesn't help you at all, or doesn't give you a sense of coming home to your true nature, of truly knowing that you are all that. And this is why having an intellectual concept about this is a world apart from recognizing this for yourself. So one practice can be reading spiritual books and this can be very supportive in a way in that sometimes the words and the concepts jump from being just words and concepts on a page to actually being a deep recognition and insight, in which case it's got nothing to do with the words anymore or the practice of reading them. So you could say, well, it was nothing to do with reading those books. But on the other hand, it seemed to be a trigger. Sometimes these words carry a certain energy from where they have been spoken or written. And this can be transmitted to the one that is listening. It's not about the person who wrote the book or said the words. It's about what is being pointed to and from where to, and then when it jumps from that to being heard as being pointed to you, then this is a recognition that is beyond the intellectual concepts. And there are many practices, there are unlimited practices. And many of these practices, or let's say most of these practices, create a certain experience which can be pleasurable, can be expansive, can bring a sense of peace while you're practicing, or perhaps for a while afterwards. But if you don't practice anymore, the experience fades. So sometimes these practices can become almost like an addiction to a drug, where you have a certain experience, a certain high, and when that fades, you want the next fix again. And many spiritual seekers are quite addicted to these kind of practices. And there are practices where there's an attempt to create a sense of recognition. For example, the question, who am I? Self-inquiry. The intention with this question is not to be a practice that you practice regularly in order to create a nice experience. No, it's about actually creating a recognition in you. When you ask this question, when you see that you are not this and you're not that and not this and not that, that you recognize beyond all of the words and concepts who you are not, in fact, who you are. Right? But of course, many people misunderstand this and turn it into a practice. Perhaps with some practice, you might have a moment of recognition, but then the mind comes in wanting to grasp that or do that again, or make it mean something, as if you have arrived somewhere. And so then when the experience of the recognition, because many times the recognition itself comes with a certain experience. It might have an experience of expansion that is somehow associated with it, but the experience of expansion will fade eventually. And so then we try to recreate that experience of expansion and recognition again and again. That's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's not wrong. And sometimes in having more than one experience of recognition, this can be a confirmation again and again of this knowing that is beyond all concepts. Sometimes it does need to be recognized again and again for a while, so that you really acknowledge and trust that this is the ultimate truth. And then at a certain point, you no longer need to recreate that experience of recognition again and again, because it's known. It's lived from. So therefore, the experience is no longer seen to be the point. So practice can be also very helpful to support this body-mind, to create a sense of calm and peace, but also to see through a lot of mental patterns, conditioning, protection layers, to open energetically more and more, physically, emotionally, also mentally. And all of these kinds of practices are very useful for more and more maturing for this human, to mature and to live in a more open and free way. But if you're just trying to free this human, without acknowledging the truth of who you are beyond this human, then you will be, in a way, trying to polish this human endlessly, making every pattern or concept, belief that seems to be a blockage in your experience, some kind of problem to be fixed. And this is really endless, because this human is imperfect. This human will always have issues and human stuff. So any kind of practice that supports this body-mind, although is very useful and supportive, it always needs to go together with the other side of the paradox of recognizing that there is no need to fix this human at all. So it's not that this human has nothing left to learn. Of course, we are always, as humans, we are growing and learning and evolving endlessly. And this is beautiful. But it is a paradox. Who you or I am is not just limited to this human experience or this human living in time with my past issues and hoping to deal with them in the future or become a better person in the future. I'm not just that. I and you are, in fact, the awareness of that simultaneously. At the same time as being this human, I'm also the awareness of this human. So I might practice something to support this human, while all the while knowing that none of it's necessary. And this is, it's quite a joke in a sense, that we can hold these two seemingly opposing ways of seeing at the same time. The bigger picture is that who I am, doesn't need any improvement. It doesn't need any practice. It's already everything that this human might be trying to become. But at the same time, if this human is living with a lot of trauma or in beliefs that seem to limit herself or certain dramas that are fed into, or identities that are believed in, then it is clear that the more we look at these things, the more we free these human areas of ourselves, the more this human can live more freely. But when we recognize our true nature as that awareness of it all, then the exploration or the practice for this human happens much more effortlessly. We're no longer trying to reach a goal of some superhuman perfection. We are simply holding this human in unconditional love. This is what the awareness that you are is, right? It's unconditional seeing, holding, accepting this human just the way he or she is. And then within that, there's a kind of curiosity as to what are these patterns that I seem to be believing in or playing out in my life. And why would I do that when I am freedom itself? So then there's, with this curiosity, there's a following, a thread, or, following a certain pattern, looking at it with curiosity, not trying to fix it or get rid of it or push it away, but just with curiosity, like, oh, hello, what do you want to say, this part of myself? And this is a very gentle and beautiful process, in fact, of falling away more and more of these limitations and restrictions in our human experience. And this is where a practice can be very supportive as long as it's held lightly, without a goal. It's just seen to be supportive for this unfolding, this process of falling away, of losing more and more of the ground under your feet that you believed in, losing more and more of who you thought you were, living more and more in alignment with who you really are as that awareness of it all. And more you live simply as this that you are, this true nature. And there are no problems or issues. There's just simply a curiosity at this human, falling in love, in fact, with this human just the way he or she is. So I'd love to open it up to you if you have any questions. And if you'd like to have a dialogue and ask something, you can just raise your hand. You can also type a question in the chat. I will look at that afterwards as well. Ravi Kant.
Namaste.
Namaste.
This would be quite a ramble, but the stages of people perceiving, at least in my experience, is like, okay, I have saturated my mind intellectually as you were mentioning earlier, by reading or, binge watching a lot of these, Advaita videos on YouTube from different masters, but no real experience of, the the realm of consciousness. Okay, so for in my case at least, it appears to be quite a challenge at this point of time to really know, okay, I'm practicing or I'm doing these meditations, but how does it really happen? Because if there is a way to kind of like move into the dream, and then it cannot sustain itself because it's not strong enough of an experience, and I fall back into the physical realm. And then over the time of doing those two, maybe slowly I gain strength, and then mostly kind of like I'm in that realm than in the physical realm. There is a possibility of believing that, yes, this is happening for me. So I also don't know whether slipping into that or raising up into that particular realm happens automatically, or something like it, some voice or some message or some sentence, whether they're reading or listening to, and suddenly that triggers, and then all of these seemingly perceived obstacles have gone away and washed out, and then suddenly they land in that dream. I mean, all of this becomes a little bit of paradoxical, or not even paradoxical. I mean, a little bit of a challenge for me. So if you have any comments on that, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating path. That's the bottom line. I feel your frustration. Yeah, and I can understand, because
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, a little bit of a challenge for me. So if you have any comments on that, that would be great.
Someone's, yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating path. That's mute someone. I feel your frustration. Yeah, and I can understand, because okay. There we go. Yeah, so where were we? So yes, it's frustrating. Yeah, that these practices, they can be supportive to a point, but essentially, it's this recognition it can't be controlled or forced or created or manipulated. This is why various masters over the years have offered certain, their pathway, how they woke up to the truth of who they are. And so they will say, well, it worked for me, so you should try this. But not everything works for everybody, What I can say is that, seeing what you don't know, it is a kind of stripping away, seeing that I'm not this, and I'm not that, and I'm not this, acknowledging that actually you don't know anything, really. This is very humbling, and is, it's a continual seeing that I'm not this and I'm not that. That's the most I can really say to you at the moment. I also didn't understand everything that you said, so I'm kind of just responding more to the energetic question rather than your specific words. But let me know if there's something that you would like to ask more. Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself again.
Yeah, I think you did answer my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Thank you. Alexander. Oh, sorry, I just muted you again. Yeah,
Thank you, first of all, for
can't see you, Alexander.
oh, I apologize. Yeah, I don't actually have a webcam on this PC.
Oh, okay. No problem.
But sorry about that.
It's okay.
I just want to thank you, first of all, for doing this webinar. It's really beautiful to be here and to listen to you. So thank you. It's the first one that I've been to.
Welcome.
Thank you. My question, I suppose, I'll just tell you briefly a little bit about where I'm coming from. So I'm coming from the perspective of having done a regular meditation practice for the last 13, 14 years. And over that time, I feel there has been a growing development of an awareness that is more expansive, broader, less identified with a personality, story, body, etc. And recently, I feel this process of whatever we call it, whatever seems to be happening as a result of this practice that I do, is moving ahead. I know paradoxically there's nowhere for it to go, but its experience seems to be changing and moving in the direction of being closer to that which you describe. And I suppose my question is, from my experience, there seems to be some difference in my experience as a result of this meditation practice that I do. And what I'm wondering is, if there is no way to bring about this recognition of who we really are, then how does one explain the change in experience that appears to be happening here, which seems to be linked to a meditation practice which is going on? Thanks.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, for sure. I mean, meditating regularly will create the conditions and the mindset, or less of a mindset, let's say, so that there is less in the way. So for most people are believing in their thoughts, and in other words, identifying with who they think they are, right? And when you are seeing the nature of your thoughts, you're seeing through these beliefs and identities, then there is simply who you really are, right? The truth of who you are. So it can be that through a practice that more and more you are seeing that you are not your thoughts. And this leaves more and more space. Now, that spaciousness of no thought, or less thought, let's say, or even less identifying with thought, it creates a spaciousness, an experience of spaciousness. Now, many people confuse that experience of spaciousness with the awareness that is always space. Let's say it's always spacious, even if there's a lot of thought, So there can be an experience of no thought or less thought, but still there is the awareness of that. So the awareness that you are is actually further back, you could say, than the experience of no thought. But in the midst of the experience of no thought, it's very easy or very possible for there to be this recognition of the awareness that is beyond that, because there's nothing much in the way anymore, you know. So what you describe sounds very natural, and yes, a regular meditation practice does create this, you know, more and more of this space that seems to be almost that awareness. And I can't say whether for you, you have genuinely recognized that awareness or not. It's not for me to say. But there is a state that you might be aware of, you know, and for you to discern between the state that comes and goes. So there might be thought sometimes, and there might be no thought, but the awareness that you are is aware of even no thought. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that resonates here. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the spaciousness being still within awareness. That's something that recently I've begun to recognize, which I suppose previously was not always clear. I would say that previously there was some identification with stillness,
Yeah.
Which now feels inaccurate, to if I could put it that way, because to be aware of stillness, clearly something is aware of stillness.
Exactly.
Something is aware of thought, something is aware of stillness, something is aware of the absence of thought.
Exactly.
There could be no experience of stillness without awareness of the stillness.
Yeah.
So,
And that awareness doesn't need there to be an experience of stillness.
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
of course, it's beautiful, and for the human, it's very nourishing, and you know, we love it, right?
Very nice, yeah.
Yeah. But the awareness that you are, you know, it's still aware in the midst of like a noisy rock concert, you know. It's still aware. Or in the midst of you know, even if you have a lot of thought and drama, emotional turmoil, you're still aware.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Well, I see someone has typed a couple of things. So Dennis wrote, I realize the paradox that there's nothing I can do, but I'm compelled to practice anyway because it feels right. And on the human level, this is my path. At least it whittles away the misconceptions. Yeah. And then you've written, the way I see it, it's all preparation for a non-happening. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you feel to practice, you must practice. you know. Yeah, I mean, you must follow what feels true and right for you, always. And, you know, when I say, or perhaps other teachers might say that there's no need to practice something to know who you are, if that is just an intellectual idea for you, and in your sense of what feels true and right, you feel to practice, then you absolutely must practice, you know, and go for it, you know, as much as you feel to. Yeah, and perhaps over time, practice, your practice or your motivation for practice might change. You know, for example, you might start off practicing because you hope for some future goal of enlightenment or whatever. And then over time, you might see that actually it's not about that goal, but you still really enjoy some evolution in the human experience. So it feels good and right. Then, okay, great. Maybe then it changes again and it becomes just a pleasant thing to do in the morning or in the evening, or whenever you do it. Or it might be something that feels good for this body. You know. And we're talking, you know, we've talked about meditation, but of course practice can be any practice. It can be also physical. For example, dance, right? Movement is a wonderful practice. And it can be movement meditation, you know, where you move with full awareness and consciousness. It can be a form of creativity, a creative expression. You know, this is really using whatever practice to come out of your thinking, to undermine the thinking, and free fall in not holding on to any particular identity or concept. Falling into this wide open space, which is where, of course, all true creativity comes from anyway. Yeah. And any kind of practice, whatever feels right for you in this period in your life, of course, because it can change, you must follow. Okay, before we go on to Kathy, who's written something, I'll just see, I see that Dennis, you've raised your hand, so we'll stick with you for now.
Oh, me?
Yes, Dennis.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. My practice, it's gotten to the point where I'm just watching myself do it. It's like I don't really feel that there's a me in control. I mean, there is that feeling of that, and then that's what I look at. But the practice has gone through many iterations where, you know, at first there's a goal, and then the goal changes as I become more clear about what I think that goal is. That changes. And then at some point, it just became, I've passed the point of no return. This is just what I'm doing. This is the path. And now it's just more like I'm just watching myself all the time, which is, you know, was my practice. And now it's just what's happening. And at present, I really feel like I'm just trapped under a big rock. Like there's something that wants to break through. Like there's this illusion or something that's just in my way. And it doesn't feel like I'm really trying to get through that. It's just what's there. And I'm just looking at that. And it's like it almost feels, there are times when I shift into my ego where I think I can do something about that, you know,
Mm.
and unless it's some trauma or something that's affecting me, all I can do is just notice it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
There's
that would,
there
yeah,
can be just a willingness to, as you say, notice it, to come with curiosity, what is this wanting, this feeling, this sensation, this energy? What does it want? What does it want to say? Kind of entering into a dialogue with it in a way, playfully, not non-seriously, just feeling it and asking it, as if it could talk, giving it a voice.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it triggers things like frustration and stuff like that. But I just set that aside because I know that's what that is. It's just something got triggered. But then the I don't know, it's like a barrier. And the barrier, the more I look at it, it kind of shifts size and shape and what it is. It's like I'm just letting it do its thing because all I can do is look. And I can't make anything happen from the looking. I can just look. And then, like I said, it's all preparation because I gave up trying to make something happen a long time ago. Even when I sit in meditation, my first thought is this isn't going to work. And then I just let it all go. That's my meditation. I'm just being.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do anything with it. So, that would be my question, just really it doesn't even become a question. I'm just kind of saying that's what I'm doing. And that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I see Kathy wrote, I love the reminder of there is nothing to do. For me, it's so much more of a surrendering and allowing uncertainty that takes practice. Surrendering and allowing uncertainty. Yeah, I mean, actually, it's not that surrendering and allowing uncertainty takes practice so much as it takes practice to, let's say, we are so used to making so much effort and doing and trying and being, becoming and fixing. So we are practicing all the time, all this doing and being someone. So the surrendering actually doesn't take any effort. It's not something you need to try to do. It's the opposite, it's about actually noticing where you are trying, where you are making effort, and having a little laugh at that. Oh, I'm trying to become what I already am. How ridiculous. You have a little laugh. Yeah, nothing to do. Yeah, in our modern society, we are so programmed to just keep doing. We wake up in the morning and we have a to-do list and we just go for it. And to really have nothing to do at such a deep level, and it's an ever deepening thing to keep seeing even such a subtle little bit of effort that I might make. It's like, making an effort. Oh no, I can just relax. I'll make a bit more effort. Oh, just relax again. So it's an endless surrendering. And the surrendering is easy. It's the effort that we're just so used to. Yeah. I see a couple of other comments. It's Kathy, so true. I do have to remember to remember. Yeah, it's such a joke, isn't it? And Margot, I love the red halo behind your head. You look like the saint of not knowing. Yes, I am the saint of not knowing. Lizetta, is that your name? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Firstly, it's my first time here, so thank you for offering this.
Welcome.
I just wanted to make an observation and say thank you for bringing up the whole thing of playfulness. My observation is that we, or I, take this whole business of being this persona so seriously, so very, very seriously, and to just remember to come at it from that to bring that playfulness, I think is really helpful. So thank you for the reminder. I'll try and be not so serious.
Yeah, really, that's such a key, yeah, because it's the seriousness that keeps us restricted and limited. We're trying to be someone very seriously and making so much effort. That's the seriousness, also the effort.
Yes.
Playfulness actually is easy. It's light. It's, we can be lazy with that, just stop making all that effort. And then, immediately it's playful.
Brilliant, yes. Another teacher, I think it was David Bingham or somebody, was talking about the effort, how much effort is involved in keeping the persona going. And I didn't really quite get what he meant, but I do now that you, not that it's going to be any easier to let go of it, but yeah.
Well, every time you notice, I mean, you don't have to force yourself to keep trying to notice or something, because that's more effort and more seriousness. But if you do happen to notice that you're making some effort, or you're being particularly serious, or you're holding on to some heavy meaning about whatever, about yourself or some situation, as soon as you notice it, bring the attention to the body and notice, where do I feel that in my body? Where do I feel that I'm making that effort? Where am I kind of holding tight with effort? Or where am I kind of really trying to be serious? Is it here? Or just noticing that. Then already, as we bring attention to it, it can't help but relax a bit. Maybe not completely immediately, but it, with the attention, just becoming more aware of these effort and serious moments, we can kind of start to laugh at ourselves more and more, and get the joke of how we are actually quite ridiculous, and these humans are really quite insane. They're trying really hard to be someone, and it's a whole big joke, right? And the more we see that it's just a joke, it opens up more and more. And then actually you see that the whole of life is like one big playground. Not that it's always easy or comfortable, even in a playground, kids fall over and hurt themselves or have their issues and dramas, but still it's light.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. I see, sorry, I got this sun in my eyes now. Did you say that not knowing is the flip side of just being present, aware, without being involved in any thought? Not knowing is the flip side of just being. No, not the flip side. Maybe I don't understand your question. But I would say that not knowing is just being. When you don't know, then there's space, wide open space. But maybe that's not what you meant. If you want to, you can clarify. Oh, it is. Okay. Good. So any last question or comment? I see someone else just typed, Alexandra. It is really exhausting trying to maintain a fixed identity, a reputation, and a somebody. Yeah. I think once recognized that none of that is necessary in order to operate, that is the real freedom. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in seeing that actually all this effort is so exhausting and painful, you know, that at a certain point, it becomes too unbearable to maintain. So then many people talk about, you know, on this path, in order to wake up, you have to be willing to die, right? And so this is that moment of like a willingness to die to that false identity, which becomes just unbearable physically, emotionally, mentally, and on all levels. It just becomes impossible and unbearable to maintain. So there's a falling back into, well, I don't know what the hell is going on now, and you know, all I can know is just this right now. That's it. I can't know anything else. Yeah, and then there is simply freedom. But this can also be very scary, right? All kinds of fear can come up. Yeah, and this is why these identities are there, because they're there to protect us from the unknown, from the unsafe, and you know, they're there to help us survive in the world. So it can feel really like we risk death, even though we kind of know logically that it's not a physical death, but it can feel still like we risk death when we let go of these identities that we are not, and fall back into not knowing. If I'm not this and I'm not that and I'm not this kind of person and that belief, then I don't know. I really don't know. And yet I still am. You know, I don't know what the hell is going on, and yet here I am, meeting whatever is here right now. Perhaps that's a good note to end on. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. And the next open webinar will be on the theme, what does die to love mean? Because, you know, my second book was called Die to Love, and my website's Die to Love. So I thought, well, maybe it's a good idea to have a webinar on what the hell does it mean? Because so often people ask me, what do I mean by this? And of course, it opens up to a whole big question about love And in fact, what we were just talking about, this death of who we think we are. So yeah, I hope to see you then. And thank you very much, everybody. Okay, lots of love. Bye.